Just hit a button, Morty, give me a beat!
Oh man, okay, alright,
How Everton can beat Liverpool. For cheap good quality football jerseys, go over to www.jerseyfever.com where they have the new season's jerseys available from just $25, and they have retro jerseys as well. A link will be left in the description, and if you use a coupon code ATLANTISFOOTBALL, you'll get 5% off. So in this video I'm going to analyse the weaknesses that have been shown in Liverpool's system this season, and how to set up to beat them, and more specifically how Carlo Ancelotti's side can set up in the Merseyside derby, which is coming up in the next round of Premier League fixtures. And also at the end of the video I'll give my prediction on what I think the result will be, so make sure you keep watching for that. So how does Jurgen Klopp's side set up, and what is the best system to use against them? Well, Klopp rarely deviates from his 4-3-3 shape, which in possession becomes a 2-3-2-3, with Fabinho playing the deep single pivot role and one of the central midfielders ahead of him often dropping deep in the build-up phase to provide another passing option if needed. We often see Firmino dropping deep from the forward line, looking to pick up the ball in behind the opposition's midfield, whilst Mane from the left also looks to move into the half space when the space is created there. We saw against Aston Villa how vulnerable Liverpool can be when they pressed aggressively. I have done an individual player analysis of Thiago Alcantara, Liverpool's new central midfielder, so be sure to check that out in the description after this video. Villa did use a 4-4-1-1 out of possession shape, which would become a 4-3-3 when Adrian played the ball into Liverpool's defensive third to one of the centre backs, as Barkley and Grealish pushed up to create a pressing front three. This enabled Villa to man-to-man press Liverpool, with Barkley and Grealish pressing the centre-backs and Watkins pressing the keeper while simultaneously cutting off the passing lane into Fabinho, whilst one of the Villa central midfielders may also push up onto Fabinho to further condense the press. This was where Villa's first goal came from, as Barkley pushed up to the right of Watkins to press Van Dijk, whilst Watkins pressurised Adrian. Grealish pushed up from the far side, creating a front three and able to win the ball back in Liverpool's box after Adrian's poor pass allows Grealish to gain possession in the Liverpool box, play it across to Watkins from where he scores. Having the three midfielders behind the pressing front three positioned quite wide enabled Villa to instantly press Alexander-Arnold or Robertson if Liverpool played a lofted pass out to them. But overall this man-to-man pressing system was effective, as it stopped Liverpool being able to play passes into the midfield line and force them into longer passes upfield or risky passes into players who can be pressurised quickly in their own defensive third. So how can Ancelotti adjust his tactics to have the same effect that Aston Villa did against Liverpool? Well, Everton usually defend in a 4-5-1, so when pressurising Liverpool high up the pitch, I would go for the same 4-3-3 shape that Aston Villa did, by pushing Doucouré out from the midfield line to the right of Calvert-Lewin and have Richarlison push up on the other side. So the reason I would have Doucouré pressurising high up the pitch on the right side rather than James is because I think having a player on the right who is wider than the midfielder on the left will prevent Liverpool from playing a lofted pass out to Robertson and will force them down the right side, playing through Joe Gomez, who made crucial errors on the ball against Villa and overall making Liverpool's play more predictable and easier for Everton to anticipate. Andre Gomez has a responsibility of pushing up onto Fabinho or the right sided central midfielder when Calvert-Lewin is pressing aggressively, in the same way that McGinn did to cut off Liverpool's passing options ahead of the front line press. When Liverpool have established possession in the middle third, we often see interchangeable movement in the channels, with the fullback pushing forward, the central midfielders dropping deep and wide, filling that gap, and Salah and Mane dropping into the space created as a midfield push-up onto Wijnaldum or Keita when they drop deeper. We do also see on occasion the wide central midfielder push up into the half space when the ball is on their side, so there is a variation in Liverpool's possession-based movement, but a big factor is getting players in between the lines, so this is something that has to be disrupted. Everton have done a pretty good job of doing this anyway this season when they drop into their flat 4-5-1 shape, when their wide central midfielders Doucouré or Gomez push out of the wide midfield line to pressurise an opposition player. Everton's shape is very good at adjusting to prevent this space being created. Now on the ball, I think there are two main ways to get at Liverpool. The first comes from the flanks, as Klopp sides, unlike most who use a 4-3-3, do not drop into a flat 5 in midfield, very often with Salah and Mane sitting higher up the pitch. This does enable them to press aggressively, which is something Everton have to be wary of. Liverpool like to press aggressively, involving a man-to-man pressing system, while simultaneously positioning themselves in order to cut off the passing lanes into players between the lines, which means Fabinho and the other two central midfielders wide of him are likely to be sitting higher up the pitch when Everton's midfield are in deep positions, looking to press as soon as a pass goes into them. To counter this, I suggest Ancelotti actually invites Liverpool to do this by keeping Allan, Doucouré and Gomez deep and pushing the fullbacks higher and wider. This means that as a front three take up a narrow narrow position to press Everton's centre-backs and the keeper. From the build-up, Liverpool's midfield is going to become stretched as they look to stop lofted passes into the fullbacks. The idea of Everton's play in a defensive third should be to get the ball into Richarlison and James in behind Liverpool midfield three by drawing them up the pitch, being bold with their passes such as the centre-backs, playing passes into Alan, Decore and Gomez for them to quickly move the ball out to the fullback in a kind of in-out pattern. Once the fullbacks have the ball, they can look for a pass in between the lines for James or Richarlison moving in field, or they can look for a long pass into Calvert-Lewin, who is excellent in the air and at bringing the ball down on his chest. So that's how Everton should go about approaching the Liverpool press, but what should they do when they have established possession in the middle third? Well, in the middle third, we know that Liverpool aren't going to drop into a flat five in midfield, as whoever the wide forward is on the opposite flank to where the ball is, Salah in this case, is going to be positioned high and central to allow Liverpool to counter press effectively. Everton need to be looking to get the ball into the central midfield and having it switched over to the opposite flank as soon as possible to release their fullbacks, which will allow them to progress the ball up the pitch. Everton should also have space in the deeper, wider positions on the flank, which should suit Lucas Digne, who is an excellent deep crosser, and with Calvert-Lewin up front, this is a pattern of play that Everton need to constantly be looking for, particularly if Joe Gomez plays, as he's made some major positional errors in recent games. But Liverpool's biggest defensive weakness is definitely runs in behind their back line because of how high their back line pushes up the pitch and often tries to play offside. We saw this multiple times against Aston Villa and against Chelsea, with both Werner and Watkins having joy when the two centre-backs were almost willing them to be offside by stepping up rather than being ready to track the forwards run. Calvert-Lewin can play the role of a centre forward, sitting on the shoulder of the back line, but I think it's on the left side where Everton can cause the most damage. Richarlison is very good at making diagonal runs in behind the right back anyway, but with Liverpool playing an extremely high line, this is going to play into his hands even more. If Everton allow James to move in field, as he has been doing, and have Richarlison start wide before making a diagonal movement in behind Alexander-Arnold, then Everton are going to be able to get in behind Liverpool quite easily. Keeping Richarlison high up the pitch is going to be important, as we saw Trent Alexander-Arnold struggle to deal with this sort of run in behind him against Jack Grealish when Villa were able to work the ball quickly into the midfield and play a direct pass down the left for Grealish to run onto. So overall, Everton need to press Liverpool aggressively in a 4-3-3 shape, forcing Liverpool to play through Joe Gomez on the right side and using that pass as a trigger just as Aston Villa did, and they need to be organised and compact in their own half to stop spaces developing in behind their midfield. In possession, they should be looking for an in-out pattern to draw the Liverpool midfield high up the pitch before trying to find James or Richarlison in the space behind the Liverpool midfield, and also look for direct passes in behind to exploit Liverpool's high defensive line. Well, I think Klopp will learn from the Villa game and may change up how his side build out from the back to stop his side coming under pressure in their own defensive third. I think Ancelotti will do a good job defensively of setting up his side as well, which is why I think it's going to be a cagey game and maybe a 0-0 up to the 60th minute or so. I think Liverpool will get a 1-0 result due to Mane and Salah having so much quality up front that they can turn the game with just a glimpse of a chance. So that is going to be my prediction. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, make sure you give the video a like, subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you get notified and don't miss out on any of my videos. Also check out some of my other uploads, which will be linked in the description below and on the end screen after this video.